We are diving into the artifacts here. So we'll mostly be doing stuff by CMC, but Alex pointed out we've got a couple sort of like quote unquote cycles here. So we're going to lump those together first, look at those together, and then go by CMC for the commons and uncommons and rares. So first up here is Cog Workers Puzzle, a card that I think is going to be a very high pick. This is 2 mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 colorless Servo artifact creature token, and then you can pay 1 and a white to sack it to create a 1/1 colorless Servo artifact creature token.
Okay, yeah, talk to me about this one, because I don't remember this one being great, but...
I think this is one... So I don't either, but I just keep seeing... Like, the fact that this makes 2 artifacts, and... Like, you know, and I think you could play this. This feels like it may not even be a white card. Like, I don't think white is particularly interested in this, but I think blue, this feels like a blue card to me. Blue is very interested in improvise, like being able to provide 2 artifacts to cast your improvised creatures early and to reduce the cost of Gearseeker Serpent by 2 is huge.
Right. If we're looking at the Ben Werney patented synergy theory, right? Like this is kind of it, right? Like this is a glue card for a lot of the archetypes, like the white inspired charge decks and, like you said, the blue one. So yeah, I'm more excited about this than I remembered at first. I think this was, I was noting before we started recording that Kaladesh was kind of in that like weird space where I drafted it a lot, where I wasn't like a bad drafter, but I was by no means a fantastic drafter. I think this is one of the cards that to me at the time didn't look very exciting, but I probably overlooked it more than I should have, right? This is probably important to more decks than I thought at the time.
Yeah, I think this is probably just a C for me. But I think this is going to be a high pick for blue decks in particular.
Yeah, I like that a lot. C is nice. It's like Synergy C plus or whatever if you want to qualify it like that. But
sure.
Yeah. All right. And so next up we have another puzzle knot. This is Fire Forger's Puzzle Knot, and this is 2 mana for an artifact, and it says when Fire Forger's Puzzle Knot enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to any target, and it has an activated ability, 3 mana, 2 and a red. Sacrifice Fire Forger's Puzzle Knot, it deals 1 damage to any target. So same thing.
Yeah. Again, very like there X1s exist. There's servos. There's Thopters. Fabricate can often leave behind an X1 creature. We talked about this. Black has a 4 mana 3/1 with Fabricate 1. I don't think this is a huge pick, but like again, red has improvise, and so I think it's interested in this effect.
Yeah, and worth noting, I do think I did a quick check. I haven't got the exact stats, but I do think there are more X1s in this set than in both sets combined, right? Or sort of like in Triple Kaladesh or in Aether Revolt, right? Like a lot of the good X1s from Aether Revolt got ported over here, basically. Yeah. So we're gonna see a higher amount of X1s, I think. So I think this will have, I think if I remember correctly, in original Kaladesh, you got some people sometimes with it, but this wasn't great. But I think it will be a little bit better, right? So it can be on the edge up more on the side of playable if you have those improvised synergies, if you have maybe revolt synergies or something like that, right?
I just think that you're gonna be, this is an artifact set. A lot of these cards are gonna be glue cards. They're gonna allow you to hashtag delay the decision of what your second color is, maybe sometimes what your first color is. The flexibility of these picks in draft and the small synergies that they have with stuff across the mechanics, I think, just makes them a little better than they may seem on face value.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. That when you look at a lot of these artifacts, and this is true of I think a lot of artifact heavy sets, a lot of them look kind of junky, right? You're like, what is this card doing? Like I don't want this card, but it's on the second level, right? They do a lot more than they look like on face value. So I think if you're seeing these cards for the first time, if you've never played with them, it kind of looks like I don't want to put this card in my deck, but kind of just trust that it does more for you than you might expect with the improvised synergies and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go C with Puzzle Knot here.
Yeah, I'd go C, maybe C. I think maybe C minus, just if we're splitting hairs here, but it's a glue card when you want it.
So now they've sort of split here. They fused the full cycle is Puzzle Knots and Implement. So black gets Implement of Malice, which is 2 mana for an artifact. Pay a black, sack it. Target player discards a card. You activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. But when this is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card, so it replaces itself. Now, so you can have it replace itself by you sacrificing it from the ability, or maybe you have another card that has a way to sacrifice something, and then you'll still get to draw the card off of it.
Yeah, that's a nice little bonus. This one in particular, I don't think is one of the better ones. It's just like pretty darn low impact. Like, where we I just went on about how these do more than they look like they do, but I think
a cheap way to trigger revolt too.
Yeah, cheap way to trigger revolt, sure. I think that this one, even though it is kind of got that glue-ish vibe to it, I think you're gonna not play this one that often. Basically, there's just better glue cards if you need the glue cards.
Yeah, I think I'll go C- on implement.
Yeah, C- for me. Maybe D+, but I can buy C-. All right, next up here we have Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. 2 mana for an artifact, that common. It says when Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life and you get 3 energy. And it has activated ability for 3 mana, 2 and a green. Sacrifice Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, you gain 3 life and you get 3 energy. So yeah, same thing as the first, the ETB effect.
Yeah, green really wishes it had the implement.
No. Yeah, the green implement was quite good. Put counter on something.
Puzzle was one counter on something and then drew a card, right?
Yeah.
It was very good. If you are the energy deck, you will get this.
Right, and you have to be very...
And you have to really want energy, because this doesn't, yes, it gives you 6 energy and 6 life.
Yes.
But it doesn't actually say draw a card on it.
You have to be very confident that the energy is going to be worth, a token, a servo token, or, really do something. Like, there's, one of the themes of Kaladesh was kind of like, you're kind of an inventor. You're kind of, putting these Rube Goldberg machines together with these weird trinkety artifacts, right? And this was one of the ones that when this got there, when you're like, ooh, this deck actually wants a puzzle knot, you felt like a genius. You're like, this is actually going to be really good. But the times that happens were pretty rare, right? Yeah. So just be on the lookout. This is not a 0, but this is a card that you're going to play when you have, 10 or 9 good energy payoffs.
Which I just don't think you're going to get. I think this is a D.
Yeah, I think it's... I would give it a D, but it's just be on the lookout for the times when it's good, basically.
Yeah. And then the last of this quote-unquote cycle is Implement of Examination, which is 3 mana for an artifact. You pay blue, sack it, draw a card, and when it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card. So
yeah, it's a slow divination.
Slow divination. But again, in blue in particular, I think I'm thinking about these artifacts a little higher, being able to, again, reduce the cost of your serpents and power out improvise stuff. I think this is probably a C-.
Yeah, I think also C-. And it's weird because all of these cards that we've just talked about, all these implements and puzzle knots, they're always going to be better in context of the decks that want them. But when we're talking about the grades here, I think we're more talking about how good they are, how high of a pick they are in the draft, right? So again, just temper your expectations. Sometimes they're going to be great in your deck. Sometimes they're going to be the medium filler cards that you don't want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Next up here, we have Narnum Cobra. So this is part of another cycle of artifact creatures with colored activated abilities. So this is 2 colorless mana for a snake artifact creature. It's a 2/1, and it says green Narnum Cobra gains Death Touch until end of turn.
Meh. I don't know. I'm not excited about this card.
I remember this card being actually pretty decent. This entire cycle of these cards we're going to get to of artifact creatures with the colored ability. I remember these being a little bit better than they looked.
All of them?
Yeah, all maybe except for one of them. I don't remember exactly, but I remember basically across the board, I was happy with all of these. Maybe this one was the one. Actually,
I just see Thopters and Servos, and I just think this card is this feels like it basically has Defender.
Right. Maybe this was the one that actually was not great. Now that I think about it, I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't think this one is very good.
Yeah, I think this one's C- most likely.
Yeah, C-, D+.
And chat saying it's got all the things we just said. It has artifacts, energies, and stuff.
Except in green. Green doesn't care that much.
Yeah, green doesn't care that much. Exactly. That's exactly how I was gonna get it. Yeah.
So
Great point.
All right.
And it's fine. It's a fine card. You're just not excited about it.
Yeah, right. So Prakata Pillarbug is the black one, 3 mana for a 2/3 insect, and it has black, gains lifelink until end of turn. Yeah, this one was good, I think. Yep.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I remember being kind of an overperformer, especially against any of the aggressive decks. This one was actually really annoying. You get a +1/+1 counter on it. It becomes 3/4 lifelink. That's quite good. You're not going to be activating this on turn 4 a lot of the time, right? Sometimes you will, and you'll just play another 3-drop. That'll be nice. But a lot of times it's you're trading off. You start stabilize, and then your opponent's got you down to 6, and then this Pillarbug sitting on the battlefield, and your opponent's oh no, I really don't. I really need to kill this thing because it's going to trade with my creature and gain them 2. Or, if you happen to have enough removal spells to get this in, like it can really start clawing you back. So this one I think is just like a solid C.
I agree. C for the nice bug.
Speaking of solid C, this one is Weld Fast Monitor. So this is the red one. This is 3 mana for a 3/2 artifact creature. Has red Weld Fast Monitor gains menace until end of turn.
Yeah, this is like encroaching on C+ territory for me.
Yeah, I remember this one being actually quite good, right? This is a great aggressive card. It has all those artifact synergies and just gets in there in the midpoint of the game. So it's actually quite nice.
And it's an artifact in red. Like, artifacts in red and blue are gonna be used like bump them up a little bit.
Right, exactly. So, it's like C on the border of C+. This is getting into that weird valley where, like, I think people have realized that there's like a big range between C and C+ and B-, right? Like we could really have more gradients in there in an ideal world, but we'll call this C+- or whatever.
Right. Another one moving up the curve here, Dukara P-Foul, 4 mana for a 2/4, and had blue. It gains flying until end of turn. This was probably the best of the bunch.
Yeah, this was a nice one, right? Just blocks well and attacks well a little bit later.
Yeah. Another C.
Yeah, I think another C here. And then we have Bastion Mastodons. This is 5 mana for a 4/5 elephant artifact creature. It has white Bastion Mastodon gains vigilance until end of turn. I remember this one in particular being a bit of a sleeper.
It's just huge. Like,
yeah, it's massive.
So there's Gearseeker Serpent in blue. Red gets a 5 mana 5/4. There's this, and then it's just green has the chonkers.
Right.
Like, everything else is pretty small.
And even green's chonkers, like, you needed like the 5 mana chonkers to deal with this, right? Like, even its 4 mana giant creatures didn't attack into this. And vigilance means, obviously you're gonna need to get through this somehow. You can't just like hope to race them, right? So this is, again, probably just a solid C. It has all the caveats of being a 5-drop, but this is not an embarrassing card to put in your deck. It's actually quite decent, honestly.
Yeah, and you don't need to play white for it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's another C.
Yeah, another C.
All right, so now back to the beginning of the curve here. We've got Inventors Goggles, single mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+2, and here's your types, baby. Whenever an Artificer enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Inventors Goggles to it. Equip 2. Oh,
I've been waiting so long for this awesome payoff to come.
Yeah. The OG auto equip.
Yeah, the OG auto equip, exactly. Yeah. This card is okay, right? Like, it was fine. The combo with this card is Sweatworks Brawler, which we'll see later in red. It's like a 4 mana menace 3/3 improvised creature, which means you can turbo out the improvised creature, get it out on turn 3, and then you have a 4/5 menace creature on turn 3, right?
Also, turning your Thopters into 2/3s is relevant. Like, you're not playing more than one probably, but like one in a blue-red deck I think will be good.
Yeah, that's worth noting that the Artificers are concentrated in blue and red, right? So yeah, it's a fine card in those decks, but you're not excited about it very often. So I'm probably just gonna give this a C-.
I'm in for C-.
Yeah,
I'm excited about this next one. Not because I'm not trying to splash around it. I know it's best of one, but like this card is just deceptively good. It does a lot. This is the quintessential like forbidden friendship, I think, of the format. So Renegade Map is a single mana for an artifact, enters the battlefield tapped, and then you can tap it, sack it, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So it's a lot of text. It's basically like an artifact evolving wilds.
Right. Yeah. Or almost like an artifact attuned with Aether / Reclaim the Wastes, right? Like,
sure, yeah,
a little bit like that. Like, this is going to replace a land a lot of the time.
Exactly. But the fact that this triggers Revolt for free is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's an artifact for 1 mana that then, again, all the stuff I'm going to keep saying, powers out your Improvise and makes your Gearseeker Serpents cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. Just like we were saying, this is going to do more than it looks like it does on face value. And to be fair, Ethan, like I was saying, maybe this is before the recording started, but there is this like dichotomy of splish splashy decks and the aggro decks, and you can splish splash in this format.
There's
like
quite a bit of fixing.
Yeah, and like you said, peppered by best of one. But I don't want to rule out the splish splashy decks too soon.
You could splish splash around in Amonkhet Remastered just fine.
Right, exactly.
I just don't like that that's just a different format, so I'm not sure how much that's going to be relevant here. But this is if that is something you're interested in, this can also do that. I think this is a solid C.
Yeah, so I think so too. I think one of the thing that this was put into the set for, this was an Ether Revolt, not Kaladesh. This was like mostly to enable Revolt, right? Permanent leaving the battlefield, trigger Revolt for free, essentially. But I think going through the list, there's actually not that many good Revolt cards in this. There's like 2 or 3 that you're like, I actively want to try to trigger Revolt. The other ones are kind of just like, okay, I'll trigger it if I can, right? Yeah, so just worth noting if you're thinking of this as like a Revolt synergy card, it's not as much of that card as it would have been in its original format.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Universal Solvent. So this is a singular mana for a artifact, and it has 7 activated ability. Tap Universal Solvent, destroy target permanent.
I remember this card being better than it looked.
Yes,
and I think it will be worse in Best of One. I think
most likely.
This is like, I think again, this feels like a secret improvised card. Because if this is just strictly, if I have no use for a 1-mana artifact, I'm not interested in this card, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and I think we've got to stop saying it at some point. But like making your Gear Seeker Serpent cheaper or whatever, like that is also a thing too, right? Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. If I don't have a use, but that's a use for it, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's grading this is tricky. You're never. A lot of these artifacts are kind of like interchangeable. Too,
I think this
right?
is a D.
I think it's probably a D. Like we're saying all these things about like improvise and Gear Seeker Serpents, but like it almost doesn't matter which versions of these cheap artifacts you're getting, just as long as you have them, right? Some of them are going to be slightly better than others, and this is not one of the better ones. So this is going to be a pretty low priority.
I think so too. Consulate Skygate is 2 mana for an 0/4 wall with Defender and Reach.
Yeah.
No. Not yet. I say
not yet.
I vote no.
You vote nay.
I say no. I'm 2 thumbs down.
Oh, I remember this one being good.
What?
This was like the defensive speed card. Like you really wanted this.
There's no power. How can that be good?
I remember this card being all the things we just said about artifacts, right? Like that makes a slight bump on this. I remember this being like the brick wall for the first like 4 to 5 turns of the game. Not against green maybe, but against everything else.
I mean, green still has a hard time pushing through 4, but I don't like. I'm just worried about servos and thopters going wide on this thing.
Right. Yeah. I got the idea is that like you're just using this to buy some time, and then it still bricks like a 3-power creature later.
All right, so what do you want to give it?
Probably like a C, right? It's a C in those defensive decks that want it, but it's I think again, this is better than it looks.
All right, I'm going C-, but I'll take your word for it.
We got Eager Construct next. So this is 2 mana for a artifact creature. It is a 2/2, and it says when Eager Construct enters the battlefield, each player may scry 1. So it's a Farsight's adept, younger robotic brother, basically.
Yeah, this card's fine.
Yeah, this card's fine. It's a lot less punishing for
Where are you at on Farsight Adept these days? I haven't talked to you about it.
Yeah, so really funny actually. So I've had such a roller coaster with that card. I was in the Ben Werney camp of this card is terrible, never play it. But I was at Sam Black's stream the other day, and he gave me some convincing arguments for it being better than I think we think it is. Basically, he's basically happy about it in any of his like red-white party decks. He said it's a card he's actively looking to play there, which is kind of funny. So I don't know. I'm still not on team. I want to play this card, but I'm higher on it than I used to be, which doesn't say much because I've been all over the place.
Every time it's cast against me, I'm happy.
But I think every time you cast it, you're also happy, right?
But I never cast it because every time I see my opponent cast it, I'm like, that feels great for me. So I never want to cast it, so it feels great for my opponent.
Right. So and I think so. This card has similar vibes to it. When your opponent casts it, you're like yes, but then you're also like, as the player casting it, you're like yes, like it's just a good time all around.
This is, I think, similar to your point about the I'm forgetting the name, but the 3/1 in red white that scries 2.
Veteran Motorist.
I think this is just like slightly better for you, at least in terms of it being in your opener,
right?
Because like you'll know if like, oh sweet, I'm keeping a 2-land hand. And I get to play your construct on 2 and then scry. Like, I'm not saying that this card is like better than Farsight Adept or whatever, but I think it's fine. It's an artifact, 2 mana, 2/2, whatever. Like C-.
Yeah, I remember this card being like, you're never like, gonna first pick it early, but you see it in the middle of the pack, you're like, ooh, that's like, you need 2 drops. And this is definitely a set you need 2 drops in. And this is a super solid one, and it does all the artifact things that we've been talking about.
Right, I'm going C.
Yeah, I like C on this one a lot.
Okay. Pendulum of Patterns. 2 mana for an artifact. This is a new card?
So it's from the Planeswalker decks, I think. Okay. So it's like new to us, basically.
Yeah. So it's a 2 mana artifact. It enters the battlefield. You gain 3 life, and you can pay 5, tap it, sack it, draw a card.
Weird card.
Weird card. Yeah. I mean, I think again, if you want an artifact, this is your 10th pick artifact you can get.
Yeah. This so trinkety, so strange, right? It's the thing. It's all the things we've been saying about artifacts, but again, probably one of the lower end ones. So
a D.
A D. Yeah, I'm gonna go D on this one. This next one. This one's not a D.
Top of the heap right here.
Yeah, Prophetic Prism. This is 2 mana artifact. When Prophetic Prism enters the battlefield, you draw a card and has 1 mana tap. Add 1 mana to your of any color to your mana pool. So this is basically just like, it filters your mana. It makes any land tap for any color, and it cantrips along the way. So
you got Renegade Map, you've got this, and then there's Ether Hub at uncommon, I believe, as an energy land that lets you splash. So there's 3 pieces of colorless fixing there, which is a lot. And
right.
Green also has fixing as well. So I mean, splashing around is definitely possible here. This card just does everything, right? Like it replaces itself, fixes your mana. It's an artifact on the battlefield. It's like the only knock against it is that it's not affecting the board on turn 2.
Right, which matters, to be fair, which matters. But you don't have to play this on turn 2, right? And then the times when you like have an opening hand where you only have 2 lands, this helps you find your third. Super solid. There's like, when in original Kaladesh, they had like, and in one corner we've got Prophetic Prism, and in the other we've got Renegade Freighter, right? It's like the 2 schools going at each other, and this was like the prime fighter for the splish splashy decks, right? And this is just going to be a very high pick. Even in your decks that aren't super splish splashy or want to, be doing dirtily stuff, like this is still going to be a good card in your improvised decks as well. Just like cantripping.
It's going to be a great card in your improvised
exactly.
decks.
Yeah.
It's a cantripping mana dork.
B- probably. I think it's that important.
I was going to be like C+, but encroaching on. Let's do it. I think B- is right. I think you're taking you're not mad to pack 1 pick 1 this card, I think.
Yeah, I think it's that important.
Yeah. I think this card's great. All right. I'm happy to hear that. And I think this next card is also great. This is Sky Skiff, 2 mana, 2/3 flying vehicle, crew 1.
Yeah, so this is one that I like. I'd like your take on this, your pulse on this, because I remember being like not super jived about this card, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
I think I remember it being pretty annoying.
Yeah, annoying is probably a good word for it, right? Like not super.
The thing, punchy, but the thing, and I think the vehicles are going. This is going to be like, because Best of One puts aggro on steroids a little bit. Just recognize, if you've ever played this in a set with a lot of vehicles basically give all of your creatures haste.
Right.
Every creature you play then crews this Sky Skiff, and so you're adding to your board every turn in meaningful attacks.
This is our first vehicle, right? That we've seen.
This is our first vehicle that we've seen.
Let's talk about vehicles quickly then, because this is probably a good part to point to.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, like, just go over some basics here. I mean, they kind of function as equipments, right? Where they're, you don't want too many of them because, sometimes you just don't draw your creatures and you draw 4 Sky Skips or whatever. But you want like 3 of them in your aggressive decks. They're aggressive cards for the most part, right? They turn your smaller creatures into bigger threats, right? I almost think of them like a reverse equipment, where instead of the creature dying and keep moving the equipment to new creatures, the equipment dies but you can crew it with new creatures when you draw those new creatures, right?
Yeah.
So they're mainly aggressive tools. The big one that we've mentioned a few times, Renegade Freighter, which isn't in the set, was just like this massive. It was basically like a 5 power 3 mana attacker, which is just like
with trample.
Absurd. With trample, no big deal, right? Yeah. And that was just like such a great tool for the aggressive decks. Now Sky Skiff is not as good for sure, but it does a lot of the similar things where it's like you're on a stalled out ish board, and your opponent has to deal with this. This is a real threat, right?
Yeah.
So just some things to keep in mind. Just don't play too many of them. They're great in aggressive decks. You don't really want them in like your green decks, because your green decks already have like big stuff that can crash through, and they mostly upgrade your smaller creatures.
Right. It's a great, especially you see something like Crew 1, right? Using Exactsy's crew is nice because, like, you turn your servo hops in the sky skiff and now it's attacking as a 2/3 flyer.
Right, and just to be clear, I'm sure there might be some people out there. Crew just means Crew 1 means you have to tap a 1-power creature, or Crew 3 means you tap, you can tap either a 3-power creature or 3 1-power creatures, any combination to get the 3.
Yeah. I'm going B- on sky skiff.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a C+, but I think in the same ballpark. Interesting question from chat: is this better or worse than Kite Sail?
Better.
From or any of those kind of equipments from the anything that gives your creature flying?
I think better.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Consulate Turret. So this is 3 mana for an artifact. It has 2 abilities. The first one is tap, get an energy. The second ability is pay 3, tap it. Consulate Turret deals 2 damage to target player or planeswalker.
I'm out on this card.
Yeah, this card
is not the energy enabler or payoff you want.
No, this card is quite garbage. It's a very, very, very slow energy enabler. If this could hit creatures, it'd be fantastic. Probably just bordering on broken, honestly. But this is not a good card. This is not the payoff you're looking for.
I'm going F.
Yeah, this is an F.
Mobile Garrison. There it goes. Yes, this is the
there we go.
So we have 3 vehicles at common. So this is a 3 mana 3/4 Crew 2, and when it attacks, you untap another target artifact or creature you control.
Fine. This is not one of the better vehicles. It's okay. It gives your slight stat boost to your 2-power creatures. The untap is basically so that you can block with your crewed creature that you just crewed with. Mm-hmm. But it's very medium.
Yeah, I think this is a C.
C, I'd border on C-. I think I
C-.
don't remember.
Right.
Yeah, I don't remember playing this card very often. If you have vehicle synergies, you're probably gonna want it a bit more, but it's not a great card.
I agree.
All right, next up, we have Workshop Assistant. This is 3 mana for a artifact creature construct, and it says, when Workshop Assistant dies, return another target artifact from your graveyard to your hand, and it's a 1/2.
Just loop-de-loops, baby.
Yeah, loop-de-loops. A little...
this is a do as I say, not as I do. I will be playing with this card and probably losing with it and having fun, but I don't think this is what you want to be doing.
Yeah, I just, your opponent goes aggressive 2-drop, aggressive 3-drop. You play this on 3, and you're just what am I doing with my life, right?
What are you doing?
Yeah, it is cool though. It is one of the cooler loopy engine cards where you can sacrifice it. You have a hidden stockpile. This is one of the cards that you can really go off with hidden stockpile, right? The black-white enchantment.
Yeah.
And you're fine playing a copy of it, but there aren't really artifacts in the set where it's such an amazing enter the battlefield effect where you want to get that back and cast that thing again and
certainly
do that kind of stuff.
That
right?
makes worth playing a 3 mana 1/2.
Right. So this is a fine role player in the grindy, dirtily artifact decks, but nothing you're excited about.
I would give this a D.
Yeah, probably good. I'm gonna give it a D+ probably.
All right. Well, if you get to give it a D+, I'll give it a D+.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
All right, big chonker here. Iron Tread Crusher, 4 mana, 6/6 vehicle, Crew 3.
Yeah.
It's big, but Crew 3 is also big.
It is, yeah. And I remember this card taking a while to catch on. But this is an 8th Revolt one, actually. I think I remember. I think this one took a while to catch on to it being good, but I think by the end of the format, this ended up being a card you wanted 1 or 2 of in your red and white decks.
Yeah, it's unlike the Sky Skiff or even something like Renegade Freighter where you can think about Crew 1 or Crew 2, you can really feel every creature I play can crew this.
Exactly.
It's not the case with the Crusher.
Right. The break point is really between 2 and 3, right?
Yeah.
The 3 is when you're getting to ooh, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to reliably crew this all the time, right?
Yeah.
But this is a good one. There's a few 3-power creatures for 2 mana in the set, and those can crew this. So I think as far as vehicles go, this is one of the better ones. I'm gonna give this it's kind of a C boarding into that C+ range, but I'll land on C.
Yeah, it's just I want 1, but that break of 4 mana too I think is also important.
Right, yeah, for sure. All right, next up we have Reservoir Walker. So this is 5 mana for a artifact creature. It's a 3/3, and it says when Reservoir Walker enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life and you get 3 energy.
No.
No, yeah.
Basically what I say. It's fine. You can play it. It has power and toughness, but this is
Yeah, this one was kind of a junker.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna want to play this card. Basically, it's just not big enough on turn 5. Like, it does a few beneficial things, but too little basically. So I'm gonna give this card a D.
Yeah. Last up in the commons here is Self-Assembler, 5 mana for a 4/4 assembly worker. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an assembly worker card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. This was a thing.
Yeah, this was a real thing. This was one of the, like, if you were one of those dirtily decks, like, this was a good engine that you could include in your deck. Like, 3 copies of this, that's a real plan.
That's a real plan for sure. Yeah. So it's like synergy-ish grade or something, because, like, you're not playing 1.
Right.
But once you some decks aren't interested in only 2. Some decks are.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once you get 3 or more, that's a plan, baby.
Yeah. I think exactly. You'll play it with 2. 3 is great. This is probably, it's one of those cards. I'm trying to think of. I mean, it's like any of the collectible cards we've seen where you want to note them earlier in the pack, and you see one like, 6th pick or 7th pick, and you're like, oh, I'll take this one because I know there was one in the first pack that might wheel, right? That kind of thing too. I would edge on giving this a C+, but I'll probably, responsibly probably give it a C.
Yeah, maybe give it a C. I think chat makes it an interesting point that I don't know the answer to, but because the set is maybe bigger than when we originally saw this card,
right,
that this will be harder to come together, perhaps.
Yeah, that's fair.
So maybe this is going to be worse than we remember it. All right, moving on to the uncommons. What do we got here?
You got Ornithopter. So This is 0 mana for a Thopter. It's an 0/2 flyer.
Put this in your whatever Tezzerets. Enchant this on turn 3, make it a 5/5 flyer.
Right.
That's the dream.
That's the combo.
It's not quite an F.
No, but like the joke here
is a D-.
Yeah, the joke here is it's like a free improvise enabler, right? Like it's a mox. That's the whole idea.
It's a mox.
It's a mox. Yeah, it's a mox. It's busted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one an F. I think. You're right. It's not actually straight. It's not
actually unplayable.
But it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, I agree. Pacification Array.
Yeah.
1 mana for an artifact. 2 tap target artifact or creature. I remember this one being better.
Yes, this one's good.
2 mana tap is a cost, and this is super awkward with vehicles.
Right, yes, yeah.
So, because, like, if your opponent has a vehicle, if you tap their creature, then they just use that creature to crew the vehicle.
Well, it's also, like, awkward for them, too.
Right, they have to play this game of chicken. If they want to crew it, then you just tap the vehicle. So there is that. There is, but then it often just becomes, like, you don't tap, they don't crew, then that's it.
Right, also there's, like, there's weird situations that happen sometimes where, like, your opponent has 2 vehicles in play. So this is another thing to mention for vehicles. Sometimes your smaller vehicles will crew your bigger vehicles.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes if they have 2 vehicles, they can do that. But so there's a little bit of tension there. But in general, I remember this being quite an early pick and quite a good card.
And it's 1 mana artifact, so like doing all those things. So this is like I think B- territory.
Yeah, I'd give it B- territory. It's not quite in the Icy Manipulator range, just because 2 mana is a lot more than 1 mana.
Correct.
Twice as much, in fact. But I think that it has kind of that vibe, right? Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Decoction Modules. So this is part of a cool cycle. So this is 2 mana for an artifact. It says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get an energy, and it has 4 mana tap, return target creature you control to its owner's hand.
Spin those wheels, baby.
Yeah.
This is such an Ethan card.
I was just going to say, I tend to label things as Ethan cards, much to your chagrin, but I think this one is an Ethan card.
It just makes me feel bad that, like, bad, slow cards that don't affect the board are Ethan cards, but whatever. At least I have a brand. This card is not good. Again,
but
I will play this card, but I think especially like this was slow back in the day. Back in the day, you felt like, all right, can I stabilize? Can I get my sweet value engine going? You're just gonna die before that happens in best of 1, I think.
Right. Like but you play this on turn 2. Your opponent plays a Thriving Grubs, and your Thriving Grubs opponent is quite happy. So I mean, at a baseline, what this does is, in your energy-heavy decks, it does provide that steady stream of energy, which is nice. And then, like, in the late game, like, ideally, you're bouncing, like, your Cloud Blazers to really, really go off, right? You're bouncing your good
9 mana, gain 2, draw 2.
Right. Or like, there's actually quite a few enchantment removal spells in this set, right? Like enchantment based removal spells,
That's
pacifism.
True.
So you can pick those up. Again, would be nice in a best of 3 world where this is a good sideboard card, but we don't live in that world, unfortunately. This is part of there's 2 other cards, other modules that if you assemble all of them, you get this really kind of unbeatable engine. But this one alone is the worst one on its own.
Correct.
Right? The other 2 were good on their own. This one, not so much.
Yeah. It's, there are applications, right? Some energy decks will want, but I think it's only really when you care about the energy. If you have a place to use that quote unquote free resource, so if every creature you have, and it triggers off of Thopters and Servos, it's not casting, it's ETBs, so that's a real thing. This with the blue red one that you pay 3 energy to make a Thopter, like. Pretty sweet combo, but they may also be encroaching and putting bad cards in your deck to make your good cards better.
But that's kind of what the early decks in this format were about a lot of the time, right? Just like again, like all these like finicky artifacts that just did nothing on their own, but came together to make these cool engines. So that's something to look out for sure if you're looking to have some fun. In a vacuum, it's really hard to grade this card. It's going to be like not a card you ever want unless you really want it. And then when you really want it, it's still going to be like a C, right?
I think Synergy C, yeah.
Yeah, Synergy C. That's probably good.
Yeah.
All right, what do we have next?
Servo Schematic. This is a cool card. I haven't seen this before. This is a 2 mana, right? This wasn't in. This is another like Planeswalker card, I assume?
No, this is from Aether Revolt.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
This is cool. It's like a Wellspring, but
yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's a 2 mana artifact, enters the battlefield, you make a 1/1, and when it leaves the battlefield, you make a 1/1.
Sort of the white puzzle knot-ish
puzzle
vibe.
knot-ish.
But if you have a way to sack it, you can get some value out of it. So it creates 2 artifacts for your improvised things. So that's kind of cool. Yeah,
I think this is. I mean, similar to Puzzle Knot, I think this is better than it looks.
Yeah, it's still like a C. A C. I remember this even in the set, it was like even with a lot of improvised cards, and I think there's less improvised cards in this set. It was still like just fine, not amazing, but I'm gonna give it like probably C. Yeah.
Yeah, I think C.
Right.
What's next?
All right. Chief of the Foundry. This is a great one. So this is 3 mana for a artifact creature construct. It is a 2/3. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/+1.
Yeah, this is a high pick.
Yeah, this is a real nice one. Just really great with all your fabricate creatures, any Servo makers. This is, it's colorless, and some decks just like don't have a great use for this. Like the green decks.
Why,
green decks.
Green is just always on an island, man.
I know, exactly. Yeah, you and your green island.
Yeah.
But this is a good card, right? So I think, it kind of, I don't want to say it loses some of its colorless luster because it's going to be a good colorless card that you're going to play in most decks most of the time. But sometimes you're going to end up in a deck that doesn't want this card. Even still, this is a high pick. This is like a B.
Yeah, I think I'm going B+ actually.
Ooh, that's okay. I like it.
I imagine first picking this out of a lot of packs when I see it.
Ooh, you wanna? Oh, sorry. I paused this for no reason. My bad. There was something in chat just mentioning there's muted on the VOD, but that's to be expected, right?
It should be fixed for now. Alex will be muted for like the first 20 minutes of the VOD. He won't be muted when this is on the podcast and when it's on YouTube. So it'll just be on the Twitch VOD.
All right. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right. But I did fix that. Next up here, what do we got?
I've got Daredevil Dragster, right? So this is 3 mana for a vehicle. It's a 4/4, crew 2. So, in that range of crew ability, that's pretty easy. And it says, at the end of combat, if Daredevil Dragster attacked or blocked, put a velocity counter on it. Then if it has 2 or more velocity counters on it, sacrifice it and draw 2 cards.
So basically you get to tussle with this twice in combat, and then it cashes in for 2 cards. Yeah, real odd card.
I
remember this being good.
Yeah, it's decent. I guess there's like we talked about our intro to vehicles. Something we didn't really mention is kind of like what the vanilla test for vehicles are, and it's kind of like hard to gauge because crew cost factors into that too. Mm-hmm. But like 3 mana for a 4/4 vehicle is like a bit underrated. I mean, it's fine, but you'd like a little more punch for your vehicle. Yeah, this is fine. I mean, this is like a vehicle you'll play kind of on the level of the Iron Tread Crusher, where it's like, yeah, you'll play a copy of this and it's going to be good. So I think it's just a solid C.
I'm going C+. I think my memory of this is better than that. And
okay,
so
sure,
I'm more excited about it.
I guess one of the things that's kind of interesting is the fact that your opponent is put in this odd position where it's like, well, I don't really want to trade off with this.
Right.
I kind of have to, or so they're going to draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird, right? Kind of some push and pull there because it gives your opponent some kind of a hard time, kind of a headache.
It's pretty big. I mean, this is attacking. It's attacking on turn 4 as a 4/4. It's pretty big.
Right.
All right. Yeah. So next up we have the second uncommon module. This is Fabrication Module, 3 mana for an artifact. Whenever you get 1 or more energy, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and you can pay 4 tap. You get energy. So
yeah,
maybe these are like secret green cards. Like
sort of. So like
these feel like reasons to be. I don't know. They're places to put mana, and green has ways to like get mana, and then has a mana dork.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Green also just has like
and green cares about energy.
Yeah, you're gonna trigger this one without having to tap it and use the ability in green decks at each amount of time. Like this one is actually it's still a slow engine, but it's actually just like a fine card on its own, right? It's not. You're gonna have to do a little bit of work. You're gonna have to be have a little bit of defensive speed to make this card good, but the fact that there's a certain percentage of creatures that just generate energy on enter the battlefield, right? And just like you get a counter on a creature when that creature enters, right? And like you kind of start to go off, and you're attuned with Aethers, put a counter on something, right?
This could also potentially enable attacks with threat of activation.
Yeah, exactly. You have a place to put your mana. So this one is actually fine. Again, a little bit clunky, but it's one of those kind of delayed decision cards as well, where it's like fine. To just have this in any deck. Some decks are going to be able to maximize on it. Some decks is going to be like a 20th playable or whatever. I think that lands this card at like probably around a C.
Yeah, I think C sounds good to me. Yeah.
All right. And next up we have Filigree Familiar. So this is a nice one. So this is 3 mana for a artifact creature, an uncommon. It's a 2/2. It says when Filigree Familiar enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. When Filigree Familiar dies, you draw a card.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's a real nice little value engine, kind of. Not an engine, but a nice little value card.
Yeah, I think. Is this a B-?
I think it was. If I remember correctly, this was more in like the C+ range. But it's really really good against the aggressive decks. Yeah. It's great in the draft just because like even in your aggressive decks you're gonna play this. In your controlling decks, this is good. I remember it being like. More of a roadblock than a moat. You know what I mean? It was more like the aggressive decks had tools. Yeah, speed bumps. Exactly. It wasn't just like, well, I can never attack now. Like it would still. Your opponents could usually still attack past this, but that's still gain some life, draw a card. It's still good, right? So I think C+. Yeah.
Sure. Foundry Inspector is next. This is a 3 mana 3/2 construct. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast.
Yeah. So if you are in a very artifact heavy deck, this is nice because you can just start double spelling after this card comes down. There's not a ton of like expensive artifacts really like ramping into this, like going this into a 5-drop. There's like the self-assembler. That's a nice little combo, right?
If you like the turn 4 playing 2 3-drops.
That is good, right? I remember this card not generating mana as often as I would like to, or being not having this in a deck where it's like generating a ton of mana. But if this reduces the cost of one of your cards, it's probably okay as an artifact. It's a finely statted artifact that reduces one of your cards' cost.
Yeah, I think I'm going like Synergy C+.
Yeah, I think that's fine too.
All right, Whirler Maker. What's this card?
Yeah, so this is Whirler Maker. So this is 3 mana for an artifact, and it has an ability 4 mana tap, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact token creature with flying.
This was too slow back in the day.
Yeah, this is like a meme card, right? This was LSV's like invitational card or whatever at the time. It was his signature card. It is quite slow, but it also is kind of this engine that like if you ever get to a point in the game where if you ever get to parity where the board is stalled out, and that's not too easy to guarantee it's going to happen, this does take over the game, right? It's just like it starts to generate a bunch of value or put up blockers. Now, mind you, you need to be at a point where you have time to do that, but it is a good way to take over the game if you have a ton of defensive speed, right?
So what grade do you give this?
Probably like a C minus.
I'm going
Probably.
D. I'm going D.
You're going D?
Yeah, I think you should not put this card in your deck in best of 1.
Yeah,
it doesn't it doesn't affect the board on turn 3. Yes. And then you're like, when are you happy with this? Like, then on turn 4, you don't want to make a 1/1. Your opponent is just going to destroy you.
This is one of those bizarro situations where I'm arguing for this card.
I know,
not, right? Yeah, no, I generally agree I generally agree with that. I just know, like, I want to temper the fact that you shouldn't put this card in your deck most of the time with the fact that, or temper that expectation with the fact that there will be games where you're going to brutally lose to this card and there's no way to deal with it, right?
I think the games where you brutally lose to this card, you deserve it. Because what were you?
Look,
because you were playing like Decoction Modules.
Right, you're right. Like... I completely agree, Ethan. I completely agree.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're gonna.
I'm gonna go C minus.
C minus. All right, that's fine.
All right. Next up, we have Beaumat Bizarre Barge. Fun to say. 4 mana for a 5/5 vehicle, crew 3. So that's a nice stat line. It says when Beaumat Bizarre Barge enters the battlefield, you draw a card.
Yeah, this is fine. This is better. Like, if you have the choice between this and a 4 mana 5/5 crew 3 that draws a card versus a 4 mana 6/6 crew 3 that doesn't draw a card, you take the cantripper. But
yeah,
this is fine. C plus, I would say, probably.
Yeah, C plus. I remember this being fine, but not super exciting, right?
Yeah. This next card is great, I think. Oval Chase Dragster, 4 mana 6/1 vehicle, trample haste crew 1.
Ooh, sell me on it. Again, this is weird. You haven't even sell me on the aggressive cards.
I just remember this card being fantastic.
Oh, really? I don't have that memory of this card, and not to say that's wrong. Like, I just might not have been calibrated properly. But I
think in best of 1, this card's gonna just be ridiculous. This card, like, it's basic. I mean, it's what I keep wanting to say lightning bolt, but is it ball of lightning?
Ball lightning, yeah.
Ball lightning. Yeah, this is gonna like either trade with something. Like, this is even the fail case of like trading with a servo and dealing 5 is good.
Right. The nice thing about this card, and this is, we've seen this on, you mentioned this on the podcast, and I mentioned this in other places, where it's like when you have these large power trample creatures and your opponent has to block, plays really, really well with combat tricks, because you just like cast your combat trick. You get in for a big hit of damage, and your opponent's creature dies. And there's actually two, we'll get to them in red and white, two really important combat tricks, Built to Last and Built to Smash, and they play very nicely with this card in particular. So, okay, I can be sold on this one. What do you want to give us? Like C plus?
At least B minus in my mind.
At least B minus.
At least B minus.
I'm gonna say C plus, but I would not be surprised if you're right.
Yeah, I think this card is great. It's not as good as our next one, though.
Oh my god, this card's just ridiculous. This is Mythic Uncommon. I mean, there's a few Mythic Uncommons in this set, but this is one of them. So this is Untethered Express. This is 4 mana for a vehicle for 4/4 crew 1. Okay, so baseline there, and with trample. Let's add that too. Baseline for vanilla testing these vehicles. 4 mana for a 4/4 crew 1 trampling vehicle. That's just good. That's just very, very solid, right?
But this isn't a 4/4. But
it's not a 4/4 because it says whenever Untethered Express attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. This card is insane.
This is an A minus.
This is an A minus, exactly.
A minus. Yeah, this is probably the best uncommon in the set.
I think there's one that is better, but this is probably you could argue for this being a better pick one pack one.
It's not colorless, you're saying?
Yeah, it's not colorless. The other one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, just be thankful, folks. People are freaking out about this card. Just be thankful that Renegade Freighter is not here.
Right. This is at least an uncommon. This is not a common, but you're gonna lose a lot of games to this card. So
yeah. Ballista Chargers up next. This is a 5 mana 6/6 vehicle with crew 3, and when it attacks, it deals 1 damage to any target.
Clunky.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's like 5 mana vehicle is, I don't know. I remember this card just being like, yeah, fine, but I'm still gonna give it the massive insult of clunky.
And yeah, I don't know if I don't think clunky is how I would describe this card.
Do you like this worse or better than the 4 mana version that doesn't ping?
I think I like this the same. It's interesting. What would I take? I don't know what I'd take.
I think this card's worse than that card.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I don't think by much.
No, not by much. But we weren't super excited about that card. We like that card. We're not super excited.
This is a C, I think.
Yeah, I guess that, what is true, but I even mentioned this before, is there are more X1s.
There's more
around,
X1s, and
right?
like it just like reduces this.
Yeah.
The fact that this like it feels like it has to be chumped,
Yeah, I can buy this being better than originally it was. So maybe we'll give it the same grade, just a solid C.
Yeah,
right.
So
yeah. All right. Next up we have Demolition Stoppers. So this is 6 mana for a 10/7 crew 5 vehicle, and it says Demolition Stomper can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less.
No.
This is a lot of work. This is a lot of work. It's very expensive. Even though it can't be chumped by creatures power 2 or less, it can be chumped by other things. And so what happens a lot of the time is it's crew 5, so you're gonna have to tap a reasonable.
You have to tap at least 2 creatures.
Yeah, at least 2 creatures. You attack with this, you use a lot of resources, a lot of tempo, your opponent chumps their 3-power creature, and most board states, your opponent can crack back for a big amount of damage, right? This is just a lot of investment for not a lot of payoff. And again, this is going to be one of those cards where you're going to see it on the other side of the battlefield, and you're going to lose to it. Of the time. Yeah, exactly.
But
it's not great.
Yeah.
This one's like a D.
D, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last uncommon is Barricade Breaker. 7 mana, 7/5 with Improvise, and it attacks each combat if able.
This one's good.
Yeah, I think this is like a synergy C+.
Yeah. This one was quite good. Again, this is like one of your payoffs for having all those like trinkety artifacts we were talking about earlier. And attacks each turn attacks each turn if able is not a huge downside on a 7/5, right? Like it's not like it's a 3/3 attacking that can get bricked, right? This has to trade. This has to get chumped. This is quite a good card. I think C+ is perfectly acceptable for this card.
Nice. All right, we'll kick off the rares with the last module here.
Yeah, so our last module here is Animation Modules. This is a single mana for an artifact, and it says whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a permanent you control, you may pay a single mana. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo token, and it has 3 tap. Choose a counter on target permanent or player. Give that permanent or player another counter of that kind. So you can, give yourself an extra energy if you want, or put a +1/+1 counter on something.
Yeah. This is the best of the bunch, right?
Right. If you're just playing this on its own, it's quite good. It's good with the thriving / Aether creatures. I guess less good with the Aether creatures.
It's good with Fabricate. Like, I think this can slot into any color pair. You'd probably have to do some work for it, but can slot in any color pair on its own.
Right, and then like the wombo combo of having all 3 of the modules.
Some magical Christmas land. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it happens sometimes.
It'll happen for sure. It'll happen.
And sometimes even just like 2, actually just having like 2 out of the 3 of the modules in the battlefield actually does some cool stuff too, right? Mm-hmm. But if you do have all of the modules, you basically get to make a bunch of 1/1s and make them all 2/2s, and it's just like it's very hard to lose the game. Right. Not gonna go through the whole loop, but you just get many 1/1s and a lot of energy, right?
For every like 1 mana you can spend, right? You get a
right, exactly. You
get a 1/1.
Yeah.
So what do you give it? What grade do you give this?
Yeah, this one's a tricky one. I'm not honestly too sure of what, like, you can first pick this card. Like if you were, if somebody told me I was never gonna see the other modules, I think this is still a fine card to first pick and kind of build around. You're gonna be taking like more generically good cards over this. But this is a fine card. I'd give this like a C+. Maybe a B-, but I think C+.
I think C+ sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Beaumat Courier is next. 1 mana, 1/1 with haste. Whenever it attacks, you exile the top card of your library face down. You can pay a red, discard your hand, sack it, put all cards exiled with Beaumat Courier into their owner's hand.
Right. So not quite as good as it is in Constructed or Cube.
Or in Cube, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember this card being very good.
No,
but
I don't either.
But maybe that's just my 2016 Alex biases of 1 mana 1/1s not being good. Clearly, I'm a different man at this point.
I mean, you will play again. We haven't said it in a while. Improvise and Gear Series.
Yeah,
you play it with those.
Like, it's been like 4 minutes since we said something about Improvise, right? So, this is a bit of a scare. Like, if you play this on turn 1, and get like 2 cards under it, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And because you can just play your other cards, and when you empty your hand
later, yeah.
Right, even more because you get in for 1 more hit, and then you get to like even if they block
because it's on attacks.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this card's like a C.
I think a C. I think a C is a reasonable grade, and I think that's probably higher than I would have graded it 4 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we've changed. Next up is Hope of Girper. So this is 1 mana for a legendary Thopter. It's a 1/1 flyer. And it says, sacrifice Hope of Girper until your next turn. Target player who is dealt combat damage by Hope of Girper can't cast non-creature spells this turn. So that's mostly like constructed trinket text. It's a 1 mana 1/1 flyer artifact creature. That's the.
I would grade that as a C-.
Yeah, C- in the decks that want those kind of
exactly
creatures, right? So yeah, nothing exciting. You're not going to take it highly, but you're going to pick up in the mid part of the pack if you have improvised stuff going on.
Now this is a dirtily mana sink I can get.
This one's also an easy.
Merchant's Dockhand, 1 mana 1/2 construct. Pay 3 and a blue, tap it. Tap X untapped artifacts you control. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
Yeah, so you need other artifacts to make it work, but you're gonna have those.
Yeah.
It's a little slow. It is, but it's nice.
But it's a body. So like, if you need to trade, if you like, it can hold off servos. It can trade with another X1 or whatever, and then it's a card advantage engine that has to be respected at some point.
Right, like being a 1/2 is much better than being a 1/1 in this set, right? Yes. Just because, exactly like what you said, holds off those servos. Not like a super high pick. You can first pick it out of weakish packs, but it's a fine value engine. I think I'm gonna give this one like a C+.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go build around B-.
Yeah, that's
sort of a similar thing, but I do think this is worth. Like, I see this card and I go, okay, this is a reason to not be aggressive, or at least it may change my pick orders a little bit.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Oh baby.
All right, next up here, we have Heart of Kirin. So this is 2 mana for a vehicle. It's a 4/4 flying vigilance crew 3. So that's great stats, right? Crew 3 4/4 Sarah Angel for 2 mana. And then it has a tricky text here. You may remove a loyalty counter from a planeswalker you control rather than pay Heart of Kirin's crew cost.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, this card is very, very good.
It's worse than Untethered Express, though, right?
Worse than Untethered Express. Yes, exactly. I remember having that conversation back in the day, too. But this is generally worse than that card. Not by a lot, and you wouldn't be too wrong if you took this card. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, this is going to be the first pick out of a lot of packs. Yeah. Still, you're not taking this over, or you're not taking other cards over this card very often.
So still A- though? Or...
I'd give it probably about an A-, especially just because it's colorless, right? Like that's huge. Even in the non-super aggressive decks, this is still going to be a very good card.
Mm-hmm. Next up is Metallic Mimic, 2 mana for a 2/1 shapeshifter. It enters the battlefield. You choose a creature type. It is the chosen type in addition to its other types, and each creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it.
Yeah, so there's not a huge tribal element in the set.
There's dwarves, there's artificers.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the types nattering.
Yeah.
How can I forget? Jeez. I actually remember there being like a weird amount of elves in the set for some reason. Like I remember I named elf with this card quite a bit. So that's something to keep your eye out for. But corner cases aside, if this card just says usually what will happen is you play this card on turn 2, you look at your opening hand and say, what creatures are in my hand? What creature am I going to play on turn 3 that would like a counter on it, right? And then you're going to choose that. And yeah, it works with Thopters, that's true.
Yeah, Thopters and Servos, I think, will be named quite a bit.
Right. And this is quite good, right? Just the fact that if at a very baseline level, say every single creature in your deck was not the same, say they all had different creature types, you had Brushwags and Mongooses in your deck or whatever, you could still just play this on turn 2, play an overstated card on turn 3 and be happy with it. Then the times when you do happen to have a concentration of elves or artificers, it's going to be quite good. So I think just this being a colorless Anthem card, I'm going to give this a B.
Yeah.
B+ maybe, but I think B's probably right.
B's where I'm at as well.
Yeah. All right, next up here, another constructed powerhouse, Scrapheap Scrounger. So this is 2 mana for a artifact creature. It's a 3/2, so decent stats for a 2 mana creature. Can't block though. That's pretty big. It has 1 and a black. Exile another creature card from your graveyard. Return Scrapheap Scrounger from your graveyard to the battlefield.
I think this card's great.
Yeah. This card is worse than Skyclave Shade from
sure.
Zendikar, but that card is fantastic. So
kind of close.
Yeah, I mean the fact that it's harder to bring this back, like landfall happening more often than creatures ending up in your grave, right? You can't just trade this off from turn 2 and bring it back on turn 3.
You can also just play this in a blue-red deck.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine.
Play this in a red-white aggro deck, whatever.
Right. Yeah. It's good. It's not, if you've played any constructor with this card, it's not quite as good there or here as it is there. But this is still a fine card. I think give it a C plus. If you are in a black aggressive deck, it's really really good.
I'm B minus in here.
Yeah, I can actually buy B minus. I won't go too long on that.
All right.
Oof. This
Ether
next one.
Sphere Harvester, 3 mana, 3/5 vehicle with flying. It has crew 1. 3/5 flyer for 3, crew 1. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy, and you can pay an energy to give it lifelink until end of turn.
This card's busted. This is just one of the best first picks in the set.
Yeah.
Just, again, take away the lifelink, take away the energy. Just, 3 mana, 3/5 flying, crew 1 vehicle. That's fantastic, right? That's just a great body, great attacker, great blocker. But then add lifelink into the equation, and you've got yourself a fantastic card. This is an A.
This is an A. Yeah.
Bordering on A plus just because it's colorless, but this is an A.
Yeah, I think there's one vehicle coming up that I have pegged as best card, but this is probably a close second.
Yeah, I know which one it is too. Yeah, I think you're probably right. All right,
it is not Cultivator's Caravan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Ethan, is this one? I think this is another Ethan card. So this is 3 mana for 5/5.
This is a good card. So
yeah, this is a good card. I won't. Not gonna knock it too hard.
Yeah.
This is a 5 mana. Oh, sorry, 3 mana 5/5, crew 3, and taps to add a mana of any color. So it's like a Manalith or any mana artifact mana producer that we've seen for 3 mana, and it's also a vehicle.
Yeah, this card is great.
Yeah, this card's quite good.
It's huge. It bridges you from 3 to 5 if you want. And then when you're done using it as a mana rock, it's a 5/5. Even if you don't need it as a mana rock, it's still a 5/5. It's quite good.
Right, yeah. If we're vanilla testing this, the crew 3 mana 5/5 is large, very large, right? So yeah, I like this card a lot. What do you want to give it?
I would give this a B.
Yeah, I can buy that. I can buy B on this one.
It seems like in general I'm just higher on the vehicles than you are.
I think so. I think I think you're a little bit higher on the more expensive vehicles than I am, right? I think the cheap vehicles are really good. The expensive ones I'm a little bit less excited about.
There's only one cheap vehicle.
Yeah, and I like that one. All right, what's up next?
Dynaval Tower. This is a cool energy build around. 3 mana artifact. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get 2 energy, and then you can tap, pay 5 energy to have it deal 3 damage to any target.
Yeah, so this is a real build around, right?
It's
this
a real
is
build around.
Yeah, you really need to be, if you're a spells deck, which
doesn't really exist.
It's not really supported. Yeah, blue-red spell is not really a thing for once. This is before. Yeah, it's green, exactly. This is a green card. This is before blue-red spells was just the archetype for every single set, right?
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, the real combo with this is Attune with Aether, because you can get energy off both halves of that.
So
off the actual
sick.
casting.
You get 4 energy.
Yeah, it's really quite good. You probably want 10 spells to make this card good, or cards that make energy.
Ways to make energy.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you do get there, it's good, not great still, right? It's a nice payoff, but it's not my god, I can't.
Great.
I think it's good, not great. Yeah. What
is that? I don't know. You get 2 lightning bolts off of this. That's pretty darn good.
A good deal. Yeah. So I mean, this is harder to build around, but easy, but better when it gets their amulet, right? Relic amulet from Zendikar.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison.
Yeah, and so B minus C plus maybe.
Yeah, I think this
build
is
around.
Build around.
This gets a build around.
B minus for me.
Yeah, I like that. I think build around B minus for me.
Yeah.
All right, next one up we have Electrostatic Pumper. So this is 3 mana for a 1/1. When Electrostatic Pummeler enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy. You can pay 3 energy, and Electrostatic Pummeler gets +X until end of turn, where X is its power. So you double its power every time you activate this.
There were I guess maybe it was just in Constructed, but there were ways to one-shot people with this.
Yeah, we lost one of them actually, Larger Than Life, which was 2 mana +4/+4 and trample, sorcery. But we do have the red version, where it's target creature gets +4/+0 and trample.
Isn't built to smash is plus?
Yes, that's true. Built to smash, built to smash is trample on artifact creatures, so that's great too, right? So there's some combo stuff in there. The problem is that red, that's you need to be red for that, and red doesn't have like a ton of energy. It has some. It's like it's the tertiary color, right? Blue and green are the primary. Red is the tertiary. So you're gonna have to work hard to make this card work. As it stands on its own, as like a 3-mana 2/2, not the end of the world, right? Or just like a 3-mana 1/1
2/2 for one turn. That's terrible.
Well, as in like what I mean is like you're not going to play this card on its own, but if you happen to have this card in that deck and you don't draw your combo pieces, like it's going to trade off with something, right? It's not like it's a blank, right? Or you just like play it as a 3-mana, get 3 energy, which is also not great, but not a blank.
Yeah.
So where that lands is like this is a more of a fun build around than an actual good build around,
right?
Right. So it's it's more like a D plus C minus level card.
Yeah, I think I'm down for C minus here.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, I like this card. Surprise, surprise.
Great.
Lifecrafter's Bestiary, 3-mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay green. If you do, draw a card.
Yeah, you just get completely buried in card advantage if you're facing this card, right? Just even just like the scry is nice, right? If you need to curve out and you don't have the time to pay the green, like you start to get some filtering, and then after you stabilize, you can start paying that green. This card's really, really good.
Yeah, this kind of borders on. I mean, it's not quite in the A range because like it doesn't do anything if you're like behind and you top deck it, but I would say B plus.
Well, even still, like, I mean, when you're really behind, no, but like if you're like slightly behind and you start to scry and start to like get to action, that's still pretty good, right?
So are you on A minus here?
I would be going A minus for this card. Yeah, this card's really good.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Peace Walker Colossus. This is 3 mana for a 6/6 crew 4. So crew 4 is a lot. But let's see what we have here. We got 1 and a white. Another target vehicle you control becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. So this turns on other vehicles, wakes them up.
This is a weird card. I don't remember this being good.
No, it wasn't very good. It is large in the sense that like 3 mana 6/6. Again, crew 4 is a lot.
Crew 4 is so much.
Yeah, crew 4 is a ton. It is okay though. Like this is probably on average worse than the Crusher, the Iron Tread Crusher. But a fine vehicle. So like low C, high C minus basically.
Yeah, I'm gonna go C. Actually, I'm going C minus on this. I don't think it's very good.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna be playing or picking this card very highly.
Yeah, Scrap Trawler is nice. 3 mana, 3/2
nice.
construct. When it or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost.
Ethan, this might be the only card ever that we get to review and Limited Resources hasn't reviewed. You remember that where they just completely skipped up on Scrap Trawler and they didn't hear the end of it forever?
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah, that was like a big thing. They they just forgot about this card. I think they eventually did review it in like a sign off or something.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So this card's good. This card's nice, right?
Yeah, this card's really good.
Yeah. So did we read it or did I?
We haven't yet. No.
Okay, so this is a Scrap Trawler, 3 mana, 3/2.
No, read it. Yes, I read it.
Sorry. My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good. This is a nice little value engine. It's a little bit finicky in the way that like you have to have kind of a chain of creatures to get your smaller things back, and your smaller things might not be like artifact creatures that necessarily die. That might be like puzzle knots, or you have to like spend some mana to really get the wheels turning. But if you can do that, this is pretty good.
So 3 mana 3/2 with incredible upside.
Yeah. You want to give this a B minus?
I think B.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go B minus. I think it's a little bit finicky, but it's
I feel like we're getting caught up in. It's not finicky because like what's the worst case that happens is that it's a colorless like creature that's on rate for any deck you want to play. That's like a C plus, right?
Right. I guess I just finicky in the sense that like I'm being slightly pessimistic in the grade here. I mean like it's finicky in the sense that like I think a lot of the time this is just going to be 3 mana 3/2, nothing else, which is fine because the upside is there and the time is not that it's great.
I mean,
right?
You just grab yourself a Renegade map and go to town.
Yeah, sure. That's fair.
I don't think it's gonna be that hard for your opponent to feel like, oh crap, I need this off the battlefield, and even then, it's a 2-for-1.
Yeah,
like anything else beyond that is like insane.
So you're going B on this?
I'm going B.
All right, I'm still gonna stick with B minus, but I respect it.
Is this card actually in the set? Because the only art is this like weird
invention or masterpiece. Right? I think it is. I think it's the one card that they added, or I guess second card that they added other than that pendulum card.
Okay.
Yeah, it is in the set though. So this is Sculpting Steel. This is 3 mana for an artifact, and you may have Sculpting Steel enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact. Yeah.
Yeah, this requires some work, I think. Like this.
It copies your opponent's stuff too, right?
Right.
Not just...
But you're not there. I mean, it's an artifact set, but you're not guaranteed that they're going to have anything you want to copy. I'm feeling pessimistic about this card.
Interesting. Well, I mean, like the fact that it's always the best artifact in the battlefield, which like you mentioned, might not be that great.
Yeah, like
it's not
copying like a puzzle knot or an implement isn't great.
No.
I guess some good vehicles.
Yeah, the ceiling. Yeah, exactly. The ceiling is like you're copying a good vehicle or something. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can grade this too low, but I agree, it's not fantastic. I don't think you're ever going to be upset about playing this card, right? And so I don't think you're picking it highly. This is like a 5th pick range card probably.
Yeah, I think I'm going C on this.
Yeah, I'd probably go C as well. I mean, I don't think it doesn't pull me in. It doesn't like. Even though it's colorless and it's got all the artifact goodness we've been talking about, I think it's one of the lesser ones.
I think so. Well, because it doesn't have the, like, you can't just play it on 3 a lot of the time, I don't think.
Right, yeah, exactly. It doesn't exactly help improvise.
So it doesn't actually help improvise that much. Yeah. All right, are you going to live the dream here, Alex?
Oh, man. Did you ever live the dream back in the day?
I never lived the dream.
No, I don't think I did either. I think...
Yeah.
I played against it, but...
Whenever you cast a spell... LSV did it once, I think, right?
Yeah.
I remember watching that. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. You pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to any target. Just
in case your opponent's at 51 and you have this creature you really need to kill. It hits any target, right? Yeah, not just your opponent's face. Yeah, so... You play this, and... The nice thing is that it does kind of start stabilizing you a little bit if you have a lot of card draw, right? Like, this is a blue card, mostly, where you have, like, a bunch of card draw and a bunch of those finicky artifacts.
Does blue even have a bunch of card draw?
It has some. It has the common 5 mana draw 3.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, you draw some cards, and you next turn you untap, you play 2, 3 of those little finicky artifacts. It's a pipe dream, most likely, right? It's another one of these.
This is an F.
It's another one of these, like, cool build arounds that's just not going to get there all that often.
Yeah, I guess.
I think it's like you can, like, if you want to keep the dream alive,
I'll give you build around D- as your
card. This is doable, but you have to put a lot of work into it. Yeah. Do not play this card as a card that you should play if you want to win your games.
Right. So they're really rolling the dice bringing this card back, huh?
Yeah. So this is Aetherflux Marvel, 4 mana for a legendary artifact. Whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard, you get energy, 1 energy. And you can tap, pay 6 energy, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
This is a constructed plant. I don't remember this being that good and
particularly good. No, I mean it's a fine energy payoff, especially because a lot of these like finicky artifacts, especially ones that like do give you energy, do sacrifice. You probably will be playing Weaver Puzzle Knot if you have this card in your deck.
Sure.
A lot of those finicky artifacts do sacrifice, so they get in the grade, you get an extra energy. It is a good place to spend that energy, right? I noticed I mentioned before that the blue-green decks tended to have like a surplus of energy a lot of times. And so this is a good place to dump it if you are in a blue-green deck that can make a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you don't really want this card. But if you are in that blue-green deck, it's probably like, a nice little engine card, a C+ engine card.
So build around C+?
Yeah, I think I'd give it about that.
All right. Oh, now this is a card for me.
Yeah.
I love this effect so much. Panharmonicon, 4 mana artifact. If an artifact or creature enters the battlefield, if an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time, baby.
And this was actually good, right? Like this actually was a good card.
Yeah, it was. It's tough because there's not a ton of enter the battlefield stuff.
No.
But there is like, you get some like random pockets of energy, Cloud Blazers, the Dream, obviously. Fabricate. Does that work with this, right?
Yeah, you get two tokens, or double the tokens.
Counters. So I think this card is a sweet build around.
Yeah, and just in a long line of cool build arounds. This one is one of the ones that does start to it gets there more often than not, I would say. Right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I would give this like a build around B-.
Yeah, I like that.
Like
as well.
This is while the other ones are like, I feel like this gets there.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Paradox Engines. This is 5 mana for a legendary artifact and says, whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control.
I don't know what this does in limited.
No, it's Banned in Commander. Fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
So like basically this card says your creatures have vigilance. that's like the ceiling of this card.
This card's terrible.
Right?
This is an F.
Yeah, you should never put this card in your deck. This is an F.
But you should put this card in your deck.
Oh yeah. Yes.
This has, I believe this is the best card in the set. Sky Sovereign,
yeah, I think so. Yes.
Console Flagship. 5 mana, 6/5 legendary artifact vehicle. It has flying. It has crew 3. And when it enters the battlefield or attacks, it deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls.
Yeah. Flying Inferno Titan.
Yeah, it's disgusting. This card is like one of the perhaps the best card in a lot of cubes. Like this card is so good.
Yeah, this is a powerful card. It stabilizes you the turn it comes down, or just gets a blocker out of the way if you're being aggressive, and just like you can't race this card, right? You get to snipe off a creature each turn, and attack for 6. Like this card's stupid. This is an A+.
Yeah, A+ for sure.
Yeah, no question. All right, our next one, not so much. Yeah. This is Planar Bridge. This is 6 mana. I won't even go as far as to call this an Ethan card. This is not an Ethan card.
Thank you, Alex.
This is just a bad card, yeah. Planar Bridge is 6 mana for a legendary artifact. You can pay 8 mana, tap, search your library for a permanent card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
Nope. F.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And
this is
what?
not good. No, I was gonna say, just don't put this card in your deck. Your last one here.
Last one here. I actually remember kind of liking this.
Yeah, this one's okay.
You have to build around it for sure. You need heavy artifacts, but Metalwork Colossus is an 11 mana 10/10. Spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total converted mana cost of non-creature artifacts you control. And you can then sack 2 artifacts to return it from your graveyard to your hand.
So it almost has like super improvise in a way. It doesn't work off your like Thopters or Servos or anything, but all of your like Prophetic Prism that adds 2 for this
makes this cost 3 less.
Yeah.
Oh no, because no, this doesn't have improvise, so you can't.
No. I just mean
so it costs like, 2 less. Yeah.
All I mean is just like it makes you want cheap artifacts, but like the CMC of those artifacts counts for more than just one sometimes, which is nice, right? So I remember this card being like good in your like blue decks. It did have a lot of artifacts, but not like a giant pull in. You wouldn't be first picking this card very often, right? Yeah. Good with vehicles, right? Just like your vehicles are 4 mana a lot of the time. This is good, right? I think this is like a build around B-.
B-, yeah, exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah,
nice.
So I think I am. But I would say that I wouldn't be mad first picking this.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like I don't think you're gonna do it often, but you won't be upset about it. And again, this is like a very like a cool build around that you're gonna try to build towards. Not so much just like a card that's gonna be good in a deck. So just keep that in mind.
All right, well that's the meat of the set there. There's
a lot of cards, yeah.
There's the artifacts, yeah, for sure.